it's believed that Judas was plotting to betray Jesus and all the religious leaders. So they had been fighting with Jesus up in the temple through the day. On Tuesday, Jesus' longest teaching day, incredible amount of content. When you look at all the content of what Jesus taught through the book of Matthew, through the book of John, it's a lot of stuff in those on that Tuesday, and then even on Thursday. So a lot of content. But then Wednesday, there's almost none. I mean, just a couple paragraphs that give us a little bit of a hint of what was going on. So one of them is Matthew 26, 1 through 5.
Yeah, so when Jesus had finished all these sayings, he said to his disciples, "You know that after 2 days the Passover is coming, and the Son of Man will be delivered up to be crucified." Then the chief priests and the elders of the people gathered in the palace of the high priest, whose name was Caiaphas, and plotted together in order to arrest Jesus by stealth and kill him. But they said, "Not during the feast, lest there be an uproar among the people."
All right, so why did they not want to arrest him? Why would they care about the people having an uproar? Or why would they be worried about that?
Well, they're outnumbered.
Passover is, coming up in 2 days. So they're preparing for Passover.
Right. Well, yeah, there's going to be massive crowds. Lots of people are going to be there. I mean, it's like New Year's Eve in New York, in Times Square or something. I mean, it's like the Super Bowl weekend. I mean, everybody's showing up for Passover, and so for one, the crowds are huge. But also, why would anybody care what Jesus thinks or what, if they tried to capture him? Why would that be a problem?
Because if they don't like it, they're outnumbered. So it's not much they can do if people get mad.
Because he's speaking to large crowds. Is that where you're getting the outnumbered?
There's more people than there are Pharisees.
Pharisees, Sadducees.
Is he speaking to large crowds? Is that why you're saying there's more people?
No. Because it's like New Year's.
No, it's not New Year's.
This is like cross-examination.
No. Well, there's a lot of people. That's the point.
Okay, well, okay, you're missing the point. Why is there a lot of people?
Because it's Passover.
No, forget Passover. Whenever Jesus is teaching, he's up on the Temple Mount, he's doing different things, there's lots of people. It seems like there's always crowds. Yeah. Why is that?
No, well, because Jesus.
So Jesus, he's had ministry's been going on for 3 years.
But if there's only like 5 people following his ministry, that would change the thing, because the point is there's a lot of people there. And if they get mad, then it's not really good for them.
The point isn't that there's a crowd. The point is that Jesus has a lot of people that his reputation is spread over 3 years. And so what's his reputation? What are people thinking about him? What are some of the views that people had about Jesus? Why?
Well, when he came in on Palm Sunday, they said, "God save us," basically.
Yeah, so. And that was picturesque of, or would have reminded people of what historic events.
Now, did the people have a right view or a right definition of the Messiah? They think that he was going to deliver them from the Roman Empire?
Yes. Well, it depends. So it depends on which tribe, which group, which team they're on. So if they're more empathetic towards the thinking of the Sadducees, which were religious leaders that they're kind of the theological liberals of the day. They don't necessarily believe the resurrection. They don't believe most of the Bible. They only believe the first 5 books, and yet they're they are the ones in power. The high priest is one of the Sadducees from that group, and so they have a lot of people that are following them, and so that they're looking for Jesus to come in or for the Messiah to free them from Rome, I guess would be their thinking. The Pharisees are the religious conservatives. They're the ones who believe the whole Bible. They just choose what parts to obey and what parts not to obey. So they would affirm it all, but they're hypocritical. And so they're looking for Jesus to come, and they're thinking of the Messiah being more of certainly restoring Israel, but they're thinking of him as a religious, like a priest, and he's going to bring purity, and he's going to bring us back to the truth of God, true worship, and those things. But none of them have an accurate picture of Jesus. Even John the Baptist struggled with, what are you the anointed one, or we should be looking for another? Because they're all thinking one way or another he's going to lead a revolt and free them from Rome. They didn't see the the first coming was different than that he would come back again, and the second coming would be different. What time is it? So they're not aware of that.
6:50.
All right. So Mark 14 verses 1 through 2. So the reason there's crowds is because Jesus had built a huge following. He was doing miracles. He's teaching with authority. He's up there flipping tables in the temple. Those are all events that would go viral, and they would have lots of subscribers, and everybody would like them and give him a thumbs up and all those things. And so he was very popular. So chapter 14 verses 1 and 2 of Mark gives us 2 verses. It was 2 days before the Passover in the feast of unleavened bread, and the chief priests and the scribes were seeking how to arrest him by stealth to kill him. For they said, not during the feast, lest there be an uproar from the people. So they've got 2 days to arrest him and to kill him, and they get him buried and all that stuff. There's not a lot of time, so this is pretty quick. And they're trying to figure out, how can we pull this off? And so this is all going on Wednesday. They're thinking through this stuff. And then Luke 21, let's see if it gives us 21, 1 through 6.
Okay, I got that.
All right, go ahead.
Jesus looked up and saw the rich putting their gifts into the offering box, and he saw a poor widow.
Wait a minute. That's Luke 21?
Yeah, 21.
Oh, maybe I had that wrong. Okay, keep. No, 22. Sorry, 22.
22.
Yep, sorry. Feast of unleavened bread.
Got it. Now the feast of unleavened bread drew near, which is called the Passover, and the chief priests and the scribes were seeking how to put him to death, for they feared the people. Then Satan entered into Judas, called Iscariot, who was one of the number of the 12. He went away and conferred with the chief priests and officers how he might betray him to them, and they were glad and agreed to give him money. So he consented and sought an opportunity to betray him to them in the absence of a crowd.
All right, so Luke's giving us a little more insight. So what's Luke telling us that we haven't heard yet? What's his account give us that Matthew and Mark didn't mention?
That there's a
Judas.
traitor. Yeah.
Yeah, so Judas is the key. Judas is the key to betraying Jesus. And what's fueling Judas? I mean, it could be lots of things, but what do you think?
Satan, for one.
Yeah, well, I mean, right. Pride. I mean, many people believe part of Judas's issue is he things weren't unfolding the way he wanted and planned. And so unlike John the Baptist, who says, are you the anointed one or should we look for another? Judas is thinking, well, I'm gonna speed this thing up. I'm gonna go ahead and, so either I'm frustrated because Jesus isn't performing the way I want, or if he is the Messiah, let's go ahead and throw a spark on this gasoline and let's get this thing on. And but regardless, his motives were impure and wrong, and he was opening himself up, which is an interesting thing for us to be aware of when we are. In fact, James chapter 3 says, when you have selfish ambition and pride in leaders, it says that this kind is not godly, but is earthly, worldly, and demonic. And so whenever we're operating with selfish ambition and pride, we're opening ourselves up to demonic influence. And so there's people that profess to know Jesus that are believers that are open themselves up in churches. They're used by the devil to cause conflict and problems. We've certainly seen that before at CrossLife, and I know there's a lot of churches. You've been in a church for a while, you've seen that happen where people get into selfish ambition and pride takes over, and arrogance, and they end up wreaking havoc, and that's what Judas did. So last passage I want to look at, if the battery doesn't die on the camera, John 12:36. So John 12:36 says this: when Jesus had said these things, he departed and hid himself from them. Though he had done so many signs before them, they still did not believe in him, so that the word spoken by the prophet Isaiah might be fulfilled. And here's what Isaiah said: Lord, who has believed what he heard from us, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? Therefore they could not believe, for again Isaiah said, he has blinded their eyes and hardened their hearts, lest they see with their eyes and understand with their hearts and turn, and I would heal them. So Isaiah said these things because he knew his glory and spoke of him, Jesus' glory, referring to him. Nevertheless, many even of the authorities believed in him, but for fear of the Pharisees, they did not confess it, so that they would not be put out of the synagogue. For they loved the glory that comes from man more than the glory that comes from God. And Jesus cried out and said, whoever believes in me believes not in me, but in him who sent me, believes in God the Father. And whoever sees me sees him who sent me. And I have come into this world as light, so that whoever believes in me may not remain in darkness. If anyone hears my words and does not keep them, I do not judge. If anyone hears my words and does not keep them, I do not judge him, for I did not come to this world to judge the world, but to save the world. This is first coming. The one who rejects me and does not receive my words has a judge. The word that I have spoken will judge him on the last day. And so just a couple things to remember as we close right now is, for they love the glory that comes from man more than the glory that comes from God. And so something just to think about tonight, as we think about the Wednesday of Jesus' ministry, is we don't want to be looking for the glory that comes from man. We want the glory that comes from God. And we also we recognize Jesus as a light, and to reject Jesus, to say, well, I'm just not sure what I think about him, is to reject his word, and we're judged by the word he's already given. And so there's no neutrality. Jesus is the stumbling block. You either stumble into pride, because your pride into destruction, or we stumble into repentance and salvation. But there's no neutrality. It's not like, well, Jesus, I'm not against him, but I'm not for him. I'm neutral. That's really not an option. It's either you're for him or you're against him. It's really, there's just two teams. And so we can be on team Pharisees, Sadducees, Judas, or we can be on team Jesus. I mean, that's